YouTube, we're gonna be VOD reviewing for Doxy. I got a video pulled up for us. This guy won. This guy won EU, and he had the most shotgun damage and the most dual pistol damage. So we're gonna watch him, see what he did different. Yep.
Gino's dominant EU FNCS win. Hello everybody, today we're going to be breaking down for Doxy.
I'm gonna make some coffee.
Gino's dominant EU FNCS win. And of course, we have to kick things off on our winning their 21 kill victory royale. One of the biggest kill wins in the history of the EU Grand Finals. And of course, they're going to start this game off by beating probably one of the best teams in the world, Vino's Trio. So, firstly, before this fight even started, before they even launched them, they initially adapted on both Doxy and Gino. Now, normally when the Supernova team does this feed, they all three hit this launch pad, and they kind of like all three just fall from the net onto these two players. But what they do differently is they have Pablo working to the side, already creating this pinch angle. Now, this is already a pretty ideal fight, right? It's got to be a 3v2. They're going to be getting off from the start, but they're going to allow this fight to get themselves even more advantage. So, firstly, before we even land, using the kill with revolver to get game off on Vino. Now, really quick, what a lot of teams and a lot of players would do in this position is they would just keep aggroing, right? They would just focus, Vino, smack them all, Vino. But that's not that ideal, right? That's a 2v1. We can do a little better than that. We can focus Vigo. Vigo is fully isolated out over here. Every player has an angle on him. And so, because every player has an angle on him, he physically can't stop all three players. On top of that, because Doxy just did damage to Vino needs to take a moment, he needs to figure out what's happening, and he needs to just like recalibrate for a second. There's only so much a person can process so fast. Vino needs a moment to kind of just understand where every player is, what's happening, what's going on. And so if we watch Doxy's just POV, the second he's able to reload, he only focuses Vico. And within 15 seconds of this fight starting, Vico, one of the best fighters in the world, is dead. And then because we already have those dashes on, we're able to dash onto Vino. And now, another one of the world's best fighters is dead. No full pieces, no fancy edits, just good positioning, and just good aim. And every good player on this trio, I should say every good player, but the two superstar players on this trio are dead. And so while they kill the Spire, I want to talk a bit about Doxy's strategy compared to Clix's. So a lot was made up about how, from Supernova Academy, Clix really struggled where Doxy was able to win. And one of the key things was Clix's trio keyed this split more than anyone else. Whereas Doxy keyed Pumped, Brutal, Lone Wolf more than they keyed this split up here. Part of the reason why Doxy keyed these splits down here is because even after you get your kills, you still need to trade. We're going to see it more in the next game, but keying a team like Lone Wolf in order to get their surge positioning is super important. In this game, they key Brutal Boxcars. They're able to get all of the exotic loot from the Spire, and then they're able to circle back. Because Supernova Academy is still in zone, they can still trade from this position. They aren't costing their ability to trade, they're just increasing their loot on top of that. But because Clix so often keyed back here on South Zone pulls, zones worse than this one, after they wipe this team, they have no one to trade with after. They're not setting themselves up well after they take the fight. So, this team ends up circling back. They do all their like low recovery steps. They go back, they recover their metal. They start to set up to trade over here on the west. But that is when Chino, who is still roaming around, hears or sees Vino or Flixie start to set up to reboot. Everyone dashes over. Doxy goes crazy with the dualies, takes out Vico, almost takes out Vino. But just like that, they are set up super well for this. They know this trio has nothing, and I'm going to switch over to Vico real quick, just so I can show on the map. Once again, perfect triangle setup. You're going to see this essentially every single fight they take. Their ability to create angles is elite. So they arc up. They know this trio has nothing, and yet even though they know they have nothing, they're still not going to rush this fight. What they're going to do is they're going to pressure them, and force them to make a mistake. Flixie tries to run at him, and Flixie, being the only person on this trio that has anything, tries to make a play, and it does not work. But this is what I mean. Even one of the best teams in the world, the team that got second on EU, still feels the pressure when you apply perfect pressure, where they feel the need that they need to make a play. And when they make the mistake, you capitalize. And so just like that, they have 5 kills, or about to have 5 kills. He's going to find Vico momentarily. And so just like that, they have 5 kills, they have god loot, they have great position, they have everything they could need and want in this game, strictly based off just playing good angles. Now, one of the benefits of Supernova Academy when it comes to early game aggression is that this spot really rewards it, because when you circle back to this POI after killing Spires, after killing players, you get to claim the B room and the A room, which means you guaranteed get capes, you guaranteed get essentially the best heals in the game. Literally, he could ask for nothing more in his loadout right now. So that's part of the reason why Supernova Academy is so good for his playstyle. Not only is it a center map like spot with a lot of teams to just key and aggro, but it's also just a drop spot that has a lot of rewards for teams that aggro. So I want to show this next play from Pablo's perspective real quick. So they see Panzer out here, and Pablo starts shooting at him, and he keeps shooting at him. The thing about why Pablo keeps shooting at him is it keeps Panzer's eyes over here to the north. He keeps looking to the north because he's focused on Pablo. But Frodoxy is around here, and he's just going to keep dashing into the left, which is, again, going to create for them another kill based strictly off angles. And just like that, 2 taps, Panzer, and they now have 6 kills. Every single kill they have is on a LAN qualified team. SETI just qualified for LAN. He got like 4th in this grand finals. Every player they've killed has been good. And they've done it all based off just sheer angles. So they go up. Again, because they are now A rank, every single hero chest they open is going to give them a cape, which is going to be really, really important, because they are a team that prefers capes over dashes, especially when it comes to endgame. They do like a balance of both, but they really, really want capes. So, this next rotate, you're probably going to be a little confused. Why does Chino all of a sudden have a dash sprite and a cape? 2 mobility items. That's a bit odd. Well, the reason why is Pablo still doesn't have a cape. And so, they opened their map and they're like, hey, there's a hero chest center zone. If we use this dash sprite, dash, 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 and get all the way down there without having to burn a lot of mats, a lot of heals, we're in a god center zone spot. We have kills, we have surge, and then we'll have triple cape. So they're essentially using this dash sprite to turn into an A rank hero chest. It's basically just like a temporary inventory slot, if that makes sense. And then we dash one final time. Now we're able to get this cape, and now every last one of us is going to be able to hold a cape. Now, they still like to hold dashes, especially in endgame, so they still are going to have Pablo hold 2 forms of mobility, but now every single player on, like, the trio has a cape. From here, they're just going to build up a ridiculous surge base and just play their edge. Or just play their position, really. I'm going to skip forward a little bit because nothing really happens here. They kind of just sit here and then pull a zone. Really kind of boring, if I'm being honest with you. And if there's one thing Peanut Brain TS is, TS knows. It's honest. So they pull zone. So they keep investing the extra metal they have. They elevate up so they have better angles in order to kill players, as well as if you are just high elevation, teams aren't really going to key you for Surge. They're not going to, like, that's not where the people that, like, need Surge, the people that, like, panic are going to be. So it serves two purposes. One, it increases the chance that they get kills, and two, it increases the safety to ensure that they don't die in a dumb way. So they focus this kill on CZB. Again, because they have so much mobility, they're able to afford to go late on this zone. So CCB almost pulls off the clutch of the century here, which does stagger their rotate a little bit, but because they get that upgrade to S rank, it does speed up the healing process onto Phidoxy. And so they go. Obviously, it probably would have been more ideal for them to go a little bit earlier, but again, because they have so much mobility, they have dashes, they have cape, it's not the end of the world that they're going so late. The more mobility you have, the more you can afford to go late, especially with capes, a mobility item where you can't take damage while you're in it. Next, what I've talked about a lot before is how on 7th zone especially, you want to be off edge if you're a stack team. So rather than staying on edge where all of these other teams are, they choose to commit, dash deeper, and then cape all the way past this river. That way, all of the teams that are shambles in this lobby, the teams that need surge, the teams that need refreshes, aren't going to be near them, so that they can't be keyed and have their game briefed. You always want to control your own destiny, ensure that the game is in your hands, especially when you're stacked, when you have everything you need, dashes, capes, everything. And so it's really important here that they don't throw this game by just being in the wrong spot at the wrong time. Now, this is a pretty cool play that almost works out for Phidoxy, which is he's going to try and use the pull shotgun to pull the last player on this trio. Almost works. But again, this is aggression they're able to get away with because they have dashes as well as capes. So they're able to dash and then just cape, and they're able to get super, super deep here in a position they probably wouldn't have if they didn't have so much mobility. And again, them looking for that play and staggering themselves a little doesn't really matter because they have so much mobility to the point where even if they're staggered a little, it's fine. They still get into a good position. They build up a little more so they're not on this super, super awkward layer. So Phidoxy really quick just caped into zone there. It's kind of lagged while it happened, so I didn't bother really trying to slow it down for you. Try and go for alert play here. This next rotate really sets them up for the win, so I want to really key in on what they do here. So again, dash into a cape to maximize your cape distance. They drop low ground and they establish a 2x2 instantly on low out of metal. And from here, they're going to keep this 2x2 going. And so whenever you're on low, you almost always want to have a 2x2 because just having a plethora of possible edits increases the chances you're going to find a kill. And that's could not be more true than in this game. Because they just have so much space, so many edits, Hari lands on their wall at a wood, drops down Hari, and then Focus is trying to dash past, ends up getting caught in that box, ends up dying. And so because he also has Invis Coin, a fresh cape, they end up gaining a massive double body refresh. Phidoxy now is 535. That is a game-winning refresh. And again, because they have capes, because they have dashes, they're able to stagger for a second, and they're able to put themselves in a good spot. Now, again here, they try and get full forward, and it gets just messy. It's a cluster. And so what a lot of teams would do in this position is they would keep trying to force their way through. They'd keep trying to force their way through, keep trying to force their way through. But Phidoxy and them don't panic. They take the game slow, they don't rush it, they pause in their boxes, and again, because they have capes, they can afford to cape later. So they pause, they look, try and get some damage. And they're able to reset and get frontside, and now they're in just a way better position in general. That is mainly because they chose not to panic there and just took things slow. So when zone pulls here, Photoxy is one of the first teams to really identify that it pulls up. So being on low ground, being anywhere but up is probably the worst case scenario. So Photoxy is literally the first team to really tank and establish a pre-tarp up. Literally everyone in this lobby is just either on low or backside. They are the only team that even has a semblance of a tarp. Everyone in this lobby is shambles. So they're able to look back. Just infinite free kills back here because literally, and I mean literally, no one has anything. Just kill after kill after kill after kill because they're the only team that has a pre-tarp up. Another kill. So now, this is where a bit of a mistake happens here. Photoxy accidentally uses his cape, which is pretty bad in this situation because they wanted to like use their cape to get up, right? It's a mountain pull. You can't full tarp everything. If they're able to cape up here, they're chilling. And so because they no longer can cape, they have to play like a team that doesn't have capes. So they play off Photoxy and they just play off his piece. The Dooley's double shotty combo is really, really good for just claiming piece. And so he's just able to kind of just like lead them through this low ground. And then his cape's able to recharge. When his cape recharges, the first thing he does is focus height. And now that they know that they have height, they just go on a kill frenzy here. I'm going to mainly try and show Pablo and Photoxy as they're both like the two players that get the majority of the kills here. Jumps up in case Photoxy goes up. Drops down because he sees that Photoxy is not going up. This tanks Swizzy because he knows he has the fucking close range gun. And then is able to take down Marius. And just like that, they have a 21 kill victory royale. It was an absolute dominant display of Fortnite, especially if you consider the fact that almost all of those kills, especially in the early game, came on LAN qualified players. So next we're going to go into a very different game, and a game that I think is really important to show just how they can succeed no matter what. And that is going to be their second place with 6 kills. And the reason why I want to highlight this game is because they do it without any mobility, which really shows just how you play the game with mobility, whereas how you play the game without mobility, because it's two very different play styles. And I think it's important to highlight both if you want a true understanding of how this team was able to win this tournament. So let's go back over to Photoxy. So, when zone pops, we can see it's like a really, really good zone for Lone Wolf, right? They're going to be able to sit here for 2, 3, maybe even 4 zones, just a god position on them. When first zone pops, there's no Spire and Boxcars, so Boxcars team is going to be playing in this general area. They're going to be on the mountain. This team, no point in keying because they're behind us, right? We talked about this last game. We want to key and then find ourselves in good positions. Places where we can trade surge or places where we can get lots of loot. And then pump powered is really, really edged, so there's not really a point in keying them either. So they instantly identify that the team we want to key is Lone Wolf. And what really sets apart Photoxy's trio is they have just so many different ideas and plans and design kills. Design kills is this idea that in a Fortnite early game, you can kind of script aggression, right? So we've already full looted. We have like a decent amount of mats on all of us. And so because we are just like ready to go aggro, ready to go fight, we can go design a kill. We know how this team plays. We know how Lone Wolf plays. So we can come up with clever ways of lurking up on them or just closing the distance. So in this case, we throw it on Dash Blob, get all our dashes on, and then we tack sprint jump into this launch pad, do it perfect timing as SETI is padding away, land below, and chop out the base. Panzer has literally no idea what's happening. He's trying to look down, he's trying to figure out what's happening, realizes he ain't chopped, drops in the water, and so now Panzer is forced to take a 1v3 against one of the best trios in the world with his teammates just miles away. And I have to give Panzer his praise. He puts up a fight. He lives for about as long as any player possibly could live in this situation. He really puts a, like, he really tries his best. Like, honestly, like, there's nothing else to say. Like, there's only so much you can do in this position. But eventually, teammates able to crack him. Paradoxy just jumps in. Panzer not able to do much. But the key thing here, ignore the team trying to lurk up on them. They don't do anything. The key thing here is because they're able to take the Lone Wolf position, and because Seti and Yapko for the past 5 minutes have been doing nothing but stacking mats, stacking heals, they're able to just take over this base and take over the trading. The kill leads to them having a superior position. They're still in zone here. They're still in this super, super strong god spot to trade their Surge. Their ability to get Surge is not being sacrificed because they're going and because they are aggressing early. Like, this is essentially what a team that's trading Surge would have up here. This is the exact same setup. And so I think that at a core level, the way Clix, Iamzo, and Higgs went about Keen in that grand finals was a bit of a misunderstanding behind the core principle of this strategy. You can't get enough Surge Keen alone unless you drop a ridiculous 6-kill game like they did last game, which is so hard to do consistently in grand finals. But you know what is consistent to do in grand finals? Isolate solos around you and then trade Surge. Anyone can do this. And so because they do this, they are able to just reap the benefits. They don't get a great third zone pull, but because it's still so close, because they're able to stack whites, they can keep trading in zone here. The teams around them also want to keep trading. They want to be above Surge. So I'm gonna skip forward a little bit. I know you guys all love riveting DMR gameplay, as we all do, but I for one probably want to enjoy my night a little bit more than just watching this DMR gameplay. So see how even in zone, the team on RVs is still trying to look for a bit of damage. They're still trying to look for a bit of kills, or not kills, but trading. And then, like any good trading team, they have a certified heal box, and they're able to get stacked, and they're just chilling going to the rest of the game. A key little thing here is that a lot of teams, a lot of players in this situation would have just looked at this and just gone for the free damage, but because they have so much Surge now, it's really important to shift your focus from looking for damage to looking for kills. If you're a player that's like always in opens, like you don't really qualify for much foul, you're in Div 3, Div 2, whatever. If you are one of those players, you are very rarely going to encounter really high Storm Surge. So playing to get kills rather than playing to get damage is a really important aspect of the game. So instead of playing for the kill or the damage there, he plays for a kill. They try and set up a 3-2-1, hoping they come into Lone Wolf or get closer. They don't do that, and then this trio proceeds to whiff every shot they have on them. But again, the idea is still true. They try to focus getting a kill, something that actually gives them value, over trying to just get damage and bump up your kinch stats. If you're in games where Surge really isn't that big of an issue, you really need to focus on it because it's a very important aspect of the game if you want to start to improve, because getting kill or 2 extra per game really does matter in the long run. So we dash deck in order to get in closer. Now, this next play is kind of wild, if I'm being honest. I have no real other way of putting it. So we come in here, we see this team fighting, and we just decide to just chill, just kind of vibe out in these old wood builds below here. And it somehow nets us a kill. A lot of what this tournament is Ferdoxy being the most unexpected man in the history of competitive Fortnite. Who expects a player to be here, let alone a full trio? Marius comes in. Go for that little side piece on Marius, and literally nothing Marius can do. And just like that, they find themselves another kill. Pretty high value kill, as it gives them a Chug Jug and a cape. Is super, super valuable. But the key thing here is that Ferdoxy is the only one with a cape. So Ferdoxy with a cape, 1 dash. Pablo, no cape, no dash. And then Chino, no cape, no dash once again. He is the only player with anything resembling mobility. So how are they going to play out this endgame with no mobility compared to a game where they had all of the mobility? First thing they do on 6th zone, while it's still a 2-tick, they are going to tank it. Again, though, circling back to what I said last zone, he could just shoot right now and try and greed for the singular solo beam on the Ghost. He looks for it, and then Ghost builds. And so he doesn't shoot. He doesn't get greedy. They get patient. And so, even with zone bearing down on them, where a lot of players would like get nervous, they'd get cracked, they'd be like, Medmist, run in zone. They keep lurking, they have awareness, and they take things slow. This level of composure is super, super hard to achieve. Again, it does not net them a kill, but these are the setups, these are the habits you have to make if you're going to be a team that is going to find all of these weird, random mid-game kills, all these super, super creative plays. So after they try and look for that kill, that refresh, they then throw it on Medmist. Again, it's super important to play for kills at this stage of the game because they don't have mobility. Every kill they get is potentially a win condition for them because they don't have the mobility they need. Zone pulls max, they instantly react. Ferdoxy tries to dash tech and it doesn't work. But because they instantly wet, all of a sudden, the teams next to them start fighting, and the team inside the building comes over too. And so all of these teams over here, if Ferdoxy's trio is still here with no mobility, their game is over. Dead. RIP. Because they have no mobility to recover, it's over. And so now they have a super free rotate in along this edge into 7th zone. And this is where things get interesting. A lot of teams, when it comes to 7th zone, where they don't have mobility, view it as this is the zone to get mobility. They choose to play on the congested edge because the mindset is, oh, I can just run a pre, I can just, a guy's going to land on my wall, I can get a kill there. But that's not what Ferdoxy and them do. Rather than staying on edge of 7th to try and look for a kill, try and make a play, get the mobility that way, they choose to go deep on 7th in order to get superior positioning and ensure that no 8th zone pull, the first like partial zone, moving zone some people call it, is a good zone for them. So while his two teammates are center zone, Ferdoxy is going to go down and get a really good strong refarm on. This is again really important because they don't have mobility. They need every last build they can get. And so they are just sitting, waiting, and they are ready. Those second 8th zone pops, and they instantly go. Instantly. So again, to focus on a difference from last game to this game, last game we saw a lot of them staggering, waiting, using those capes and those dashes. Whereas this game, where they don't have that, you see them being a lot more ready and reactionary to zone pulls. Now notice how Pablo, the second Ferdoxy's low, takes over leading to ensure that they're not staggering too far in this rotate. This play right here, so smart. Smacks the wall low, edits the cone up, and looks through his cone and sees Cringe holding the wall. So many players would have just fell for the trap Cringe just set up and got on their wall, pre-edited, and died there. But absolute godly awareness out of like Pablo there. Godly awareness. Like ridiculous, like game-winning awareness. Let me also rewind and show another really strong awareness play out of Ferdoxy too. Gotta also highlight the IGL, you know? So we start spraying the floors to like make sure a kid's not lurking back tarp. When they realize he is, they decide to cut and left and play below. Now, they do invest a lot of mats here, and they have to. If you're coming in onto 8th zone and a team is like playing pretty aggressive, you just have to invest mats. You have to make it so that they can't get a free kill on you. You have to do it. There's no ifs and or buts about it. Ferdoxy tries to get PC, but he's not able to get off the piece. So when this zone pulls, Phrodoxy leads, but while he's leading, he still lets his fraggers stay back. So I'm gonna like draw like a little dot where Phrodoxy is about now. So he's about here-ish. And so because they have like a full tarp leading from where they are to where Phrodoxy is, and there shouldn't be a world where a team can cut them off as Pablo and Chino are looking back, he gives his fraggers the opportunity to try and look for a refresh kill on backside. He gives them the opportunity to try and leverage their side of zone for a kill. They aren't able to get it. Now this next play is a bit wild that it actually works especially as well as it does, but sometimes it's better to be lucky than to be good. So we smack into this back tarp here. Because this trio closed off their back tarp so far from like, what's it called? Where they are now, they didn't build a wall here. Because there's no wall here, they have no audio on Phrodoxy and them smacking into their back tarp. They're able to just walk over. Pablo runs over at the freeze, and they're able to get a pretty good refresh onto Focus, another LAN qualified team. Now again, what we saw in the last game was a lot of the time when the zone transitions happened, they weren't perfectly ready for it, right? There was a lot of staggering, there was a lot of like just slowness. They weren't perfectly on time when it came to reacting. In this game, however, the second zone pops, they are there. Like Usain Bolt, track sprinter, instantly front side low ground. That is the type of just response you need as just a low ground team if you don't have mobility. You have to be quick, you have to be ready. If you are not, if you stagger, if you waste any time, you run the risk of being cut off. Phrodoxy does a good job of instantly going to cut off this team on low ground. But again, transitions are so important, especially when you don't have good mobility. It's so important. Already have that little pre-edit on low ground. So because they pull back, they don't have a zone to react to. So this is like a commitment play. They have four builds, 3 builds, and 1 build. They need to make a play. They can try and delay it and make another box or two, but what they choose to do is they choose to run this pre, even though it's not the most ideal spot, and they commit fully towards this play. We're able to get a couple kills from this spot. Phrodoxy then starts to play Chug Jug. Cape's super important in heal offs in order to ensure that you maximize your amount of time in zone. That Storm Sickness isn't able to get in, but they're able to clutch up a second place there. Combination of the heal off play there, as well as just them playing super strong, especially on those zone transitions. So, next I'm going to go into another game that I think is particularly strong from them. So, I'm going to go to their 7... Actually, I'm going to go to their 3rd place with 8 kills. I think this is another super strong game. So I plan on showing 2 more games after this, because I think all of these games I'm going to show have... Jeez, my voice for a second. All of these games have a lot of valuable lessons to be shown from them. It's like a half hiccup, like half burp from me. Jeez. I think that's a sign I need a little bit more water. I've been yapping a little too much. So the key thing about this game is that they instantly see in the feed that Vino, Vico, and Flixie go down. And so because they go down, they already have a pretty good idea of what happened. Whenever a fight at Boxcars goes down in the modern meta, it goes down in the mountains and then they rotate down into the POI. And so because of that, if you're a team that lands Supernova Academy and you're watching the feed and you see Vino just died, you know the team is going to walk into Brutal Boxcars. You're able to go down and you just set up the key you've been doing time and time again. You set up dashes and you just go. And so by the time they get there, Ping, Walks, and Malabuka are also getting there, but they're getting there with far worse loot. Literally nothing on half these players. They see Walks. Walks does not see them. Again, let me go rewind that and just show that from Fridoxi's POV, because again, we do everything we can to try and set up angles. Every single thing they can possibly do to set up the best angles possible. So, we take the super jump, we land close to Walks, we dash past him, and we start shooting him. Instantly, we have another God tier pinch. Pablo on one side, Fridoxy on one side. Can Walks block off both these angles at one time? No. And so because of that, it is pretty obvious that he is going to die pretty instantly. Being sprayed from the back. Instantly dies. Basically nothing he can do there. Literally nothing he can do there. And so, again, we are forcing fights in these early games, early to mid games, and we're almost always winning these fights because of good positioning. We're not winning these fights because we're more mechanical. We are winning these fights because we are more prepared. So I'm going to go watch this for a little bit, and then I'm going to skip a bit ahead, because what ends up happening is because they have a super strong Supernova zone here, they don't need to key anybody else. The pump team also just did not load in, it seems. And so they just set up their normal surge at this RV park, or as the Europeans who are going to watch this video would call it, a caravan park. Now, once they set up here, I'm going to just occasionally skip forward like a couple times, just to give you like a little check-in, because not much happens if I'm being honest. So they trade from RVs, then move to Supernova, and then start trading again. Chino is basically just in the POI permanently, just running around, just farming. It's, in all honesty, pretty boring gameplay from both the people looking for damage and both Chino inside the POI farming. Once again, we have now fully moved from this edge spot to a more central spot where we can make a metal base. Now I'm going to do one final skip, and from here I'm going to just watch out the end game. So they pull like a pretty strong edge here on Supernova, and they have this like just god tier base, they have extra heals, they have basically everything they need. Next zone pulls. Oh yeah, just an FYI, Fridoxy will be bugged for this entire endgame. Whenever he is ADSing, he is going to look like he is jumping. So whenever you see that little bit of animation there, just know he is not jumping, he is ADSing. Whenever you see him doing like a little goofy jump, he is ADSing. Sometimes he is actually jumping. So because they're on edge and they have just a ridiculous amount of extra metal from all the time Chino has been farming on this side, Fridoxy is going to go up with all those extra mats, and he is going to just build a base on this edge. The rest of his teammates are going to stay on the elevation above him. The reason why they're going to stay on this elevation above him is to ensure that they anchor this side. If all three of them were to drop to this position here, a team could very easily flank behind, ramp up, and then be above them. But because his two teammates are staying on this anchor point, the highest point here, they ensure no team wrapping in behind them can possibly get above them. Now, I do warn you guys, things are about to get very chaotic because of a team that needs Surge, but I will try my best to talk you through what ends up happening. Similarly to how Truelex just comes in late there, if there was no team on top there, things could get super sketch. So we keep farming. Pablo goes up, and then he hears footsteps. The reason why he hears footsteps is because this team needs Surge and is currently cranking 90s trying to jump on their head. 500 below. So I'm going to go over to Chino's POV because Chino's the one that gets all 3 kills. Comes over. Pablo's able to buy himself enough time for Chino to get onto his wall and kill the player. And they all die. So it definitely did get a little sketch there. Fighting on height against a team that needs Surge obviously isn't ideal, but they are able to clutch it up. From that, they have essentially a cap mat refresh. 1400, 1300, and then Phrodoxy is the most poor one, but still, his teammates both having cap metal ensures that they're going to be able to drop some to him later. And then he's able to find more on the last body, and so now we are actually all cap mats. So while they are there and trying to play onto this like Surge base, Queasy and them end up caping up. Because they are so stacked, they do not need to overcommit for this height. And so they just reset, they play below, and they do not panic. Again, this has been a very big trend for this trio. They do not panic. Zone pulls max. They end up getting together. So going into the endgame, there are going to hold double dash sprites. Roxy loves these dualies. Again, similar to what we've seen before, whenever they're on these super congested zones, they try and get deep away from players to minimize the chances that they are ran out by a team that is desperate, just in order to maximize their safety. Really good awareness in order to make sure they don't get killed there by a triple spray or a free edit. Because they're not on the best spot, we really aren't looking for much. We're not editing our walls, we're not trying to spray when we're not in a position to spray. Instead, what we do is we just sit and we chill and relax. Then when an opportunity actually arises, Pixie and them get really, really suffocated. We then can look for a little bit of a box fight, a little bit of pressuring walls. But they're not just spraying things randomly. So Phrodoxy marks his old boxes that they dashed from, and so that is where he's going to try and go. Because a team beats him there, he dashes in front of the boxes, and again we're going to use a med miss in order to tank and take low. This is the second time we've seen this play in this Grands. This is a play you love to see from players, and players just like love to do, which is cutting audio whenever they're about to make a play. So the reason why you do that is you just increase the chances that they are caught off guard by it. So many players are really becoming aware of visualized audio. So if you're a team that is cutting audio, players that are over reliant on that visualized audio in order to have awareness aren't going to have really any clue that you are lurking on their walls. Or in this case, looking for a drop down. So again, because we are the first team to react to zone, we were able to get this little right side low ground to ourselves. So things almost get pretty sketched there. but because we take things slow. And again, whenever someone is getting cut off, whenever someone can lead, something very important on this trio is that other players can step up. In this instance, it's Chino. When they get cut off, Chino is the one that's able to go around to the right and dash and get them a prime spot in zone. They aren't only reliant on Fridoxy leading them. That is a very important skill set that not enough fraggers really have. He tries to go there, gets cut off, instantly goes front, establishes a position, gets off that sketch layer, and finds them in a really, really good spot. Again, we're not just editing our walls for no reason. When we hear his constant triple sprays, we're just like looking around, we're being aware. Solo lands in front of us, so we spray him, force him to go, and then leech his tarp. Now this has got to be just a super just strong play from Fridoxy, so I'm going to focus on him. We try and look for the drop down on this player. Then as we're looking up, we see in that like singular frame, that floor break. We look, we see it again, and then we just start cranking. We instantly just make the call, go up, go up, go up. And because of that just like half a second, like 10, 15, 20 frames, where he saw that floor or that ramp being broken, they're able to go up, they're able to get height. Super important awareness out of Fridoxy there. Even if he didn't see it get broken, he probably would have come to his teammates to chop it as it was built up out of wood. Now, I'm going to keep my eye on Fridoxy because what he does here is honestly just crazy. Again, these dualies are insane. It is crazy how underrated they were this entire season. But even though he doesn't end up winning this game, these are still some absolutely incredible plays by Fridoxy. Like, truly, his composure as a player that's made 6 grand finals is otherworldly. This man has actual ice running through his veins. So Team Capes up, goes, looks for a play, hits a 50 tag, dashes into Storm, waits for his tag sprint again, and almost pulls off one of the best plays I've ever seen. Doesn't get it, but still, 3rd place there. Really strong game. Again, you're seeing that when they don't have capes, they are way more focused on making sure that they have those super strong transitions. Now, I want to change up the super strong end games they've had to focus more on a game where they got a lot of kills, but they didn't do as well in endgame. And I want to show what a bad endgame from them looks like, while also showing a game where they get a lot of kills. Because there is a lot to take away from this game when it comes to kills. This is also one of very few games where they don't key south. And you're going to see it when, whenever this replay loads. So how about this weather? Alright, now we're in. So, because they've keyed Lone Wolf so much, they can't always be predictable. They can't always key Lone Wolf every single time. So this game, they go over and they key onto the team at the split back here. This is a play Clix did a lot. I feel, and I'm of the opinion that Clix did this play too often rather than keying the teams to his south. But, alas, I am not the tier 1 IGL that Iamzo is, and I am not the tier 1 coach that Bloodex is. So, what they're going for here is they're going to try and kill that team and then circle back into Supernova afterwards. So, they use their dash tech in order to get over there as fast as possible. Something else you're going to see on like zones where they're keen to their north, they are very much less afraid to use dashes. The reason why is because after they fight up here and they like ZZZ them, when they circle back around, they are able to put those dash sprites into the shrines. Bless you. and they're able to put those dash sprites into the shrines, and because of that, they're able to recuperate any real dashes they used here. Phrodoxy, again, is going to set up a triangle super, super well. So he goes all the way over here. He sees Howley go off to the north. He comes that to his teammates, and he sets up, again, just a god tier pinch. Second, he's like far and he doesn't have dashes on. He sees Howley, he puts dashes on. And Howley's dead. Again, there's nothing these players can do. Every single time they take a fight in a way where there really isn't anything they can do. They are being suffocated from all angles. Now, I've showed the good, and I think it's time I showed the bad of nonchalant Dreadhead Phrodoxy, because what we are about to see can only be described as a man trying too hard to be nonchalant. So, while it is a bit troll how Phrodoxy died, he obviously did not expect that player to run back and slide, and it's whatever. I want to highlight what Pablo does to ensure that they get the res off here. Runs back and he gets that wall. So what a lot of players would have done is they would have instantly ran back and they would have just sat on Phrodoxy and just played defense from this box. But because he counter-aggressed for that like brief like 1 second, like 2, he's able to hold this player off for like more than that, for like double that. Essentially, it acts like a 2x multiplier. He invests 2 seconds, that guy invests 4. And so when it only takes about 5 seconds to double res, him doing that ensures that they're able to get Phrodoxy up. Phrodoxy's up now, and so even though they were acting like a little bit too nonchalant there, they're able to recover pretty easily. Now, this is where things really start to get pretty sketch. We now have 4 teams in like just the vicinity. We don't know where the duo is. We don't know where the trio is. We don't even know how many teams are here. So things definitely do get sketchier. Again, though, circling back to the first game, Supernova is a drop spot that is super, super good for recovering. This team tries to jump on Phrodoxy. Again, this is just a fight that gets like, just super, super chaotic. So I'm going to keep my eye on Pablo because he's the one that gets the next kill. So eventually what ends up happening is the 2 teams end up trading Nox. Once they trade Nox, they can actually start to settle into what they do so well, which is Phrodoxy and them are just so good at pinching. So they see the third on the team they keyed dies. One of them calms that they see a knocked body. Pablo gets in from the back, is able to hit that player white, and is able to knock his other player. Because Pablo just got so much damage there, jumping in on the back while his 2 teammates are on the other side, they're able to essentially guaranteed win this fight. This player is running around on 10 HP whites. It is already over for him. And so again, every single time they end the fight quickly, it is almost entirely based off aim and pinching. While the 2 teammates are on one side pushing in, Pablo gets on the back and is able to punish them. The super, super strong fighting fundamentals. When it comes to just trio fighting and making fighting as easy as possible, I really don't think there is a better trio in the world. Now, I do think there are better fighting trios in the world, obviously, like Peterbot, for example, Acorn, I would even say I think Vino is a better fighting trio. They make and they take so many easy fights, so much more than basically every other trio, to the point where it really does make it a lot easier for them to be great. Now, this next fight is actually super techie, again, from Phrodoxy. Like, almost every fight you see from Phrodoxy is Phrodoxy just being super, super techie. There's not him being mechanical, not him being like crazy, it's just him being just super techie. So, they tag this player over here, Whites. So what does Phrodoxy do? He bounces off the umbrella, lands next to him, and then chops him out insta. Forces this guy to cape. Dashes away. And then while sliding, headshots him. Like, the way he kills players is ridiculous. And just like that, they have another trio away. As Pradaj is currently hiding best he can. And so just like that, they have 6 kills. Now, the thing to know about this game is obviously not ideal zone for them to be this, like, late. Even though they do have a lot of kills, the amount of whites they're currently invested in their inventory is not ideal. Again, though, because they reach such a high hero rank so early, they get so many kills, it does benefit them later on in the game. This was a meta that really strongly rewarded teams that were aggressive, whether it be in opens or finals, that were prioritizing these mid-map objectives, whether it be shrines, spires, whatever. And so I think if they keep this mechanic in the game next season, you should all really try and optimize your first 2 to 3 zones to get as much as you can out of them. Even if you're a little shambles coming out of it, if you can, like, be a high hero rank that's in the game next season or some similar mechanic, you can really find yourself being heavily rewarded for taking a lot of early game risks and aggression with a lot of mobility. This season, for instance, really rewarded teams that took that early game aggression with mobility. Having guaranteed capes out of all A+ ranked chests is massive. So now, obviously, this is not the most ideal zone for them, given that they are the most north team. But again, having triple cape and a dash sprite is very good for them. But what I want to talk about and like highlight this game is what they do differently compared to their better end games earlier, and then I'm going to close this video out with one more game after this. So something that they obviously don't find ideal is they're already burning through dashes a lot quicker than in a lot of the other games. A lot of the other games, they would have like a full dash sprite, 2 charges, a lot more than what they have this game. They already have 1 charge left, and they aren't even into moving zones left. So obviously, they're a bit poor when it comes to mobility, and they really like chaining dashes into capes. So them not having really any dashes at all when it's going to be moving zones obviously isn't ideal. So because they're coming in late and they're forced to like play on this congested side, or not forced, but it's a pretty rough zone to get in super deep because there isn't really anything for you to build off of. So they pause here because they don't want to waste their dashes because they only have so many, and they instantly start getting pressured. When I talked before about how when you're getting into 7th or getting to 8th, you really want to just maximize your distance away from teams, this is what I mean. Their ability to control their game is now out of their hands. They're not even in zone yet. They are 31 below. And so everything I talked about before has built up to this game. They keyed backwards into zone because they couldn't really key any team below them on that game. And so because of that, this is the one game where they're below because they couldn't trade after it. They have 6 kills. 6 kills. And yet they still don't have enough surge. They're coming into 7th. and they don't have their space, and they're struggling, and they're losing mats, and they're getting griefed. This is the game where they're not able to do all the other things they're able to do. This should have been a way better game than what it is. But because they weren't able to go and trade Surge after, because they don't have as much mobility, because they're in a really shambles spot on 7th, they just find themselves being so much worse off than what they were in the other games. Now, they get another pretty bad 8th pull. They don't get a lucky pullback to where they could just maybe clutch up this game and just sit on height. So this zone, they are able to find themselves in a bit of a better position. So they are able to find themselves like a bit away from the congestion, which is mostly below them. However, because they still lost so many mats on that previous zone, Fridoxy now has 600 mats, Pablo 600 as well, and Chino has 400 mats. There were games where one player would have as many mats as this entire trio combined at this moment. And it's all because in the 7th zone they had to burn through like 500 or more hard mats because they were in a really bad spot on 7th. So now this game, again, the game is not in their hands anymore. I talk about it, I preach all the time how controlling your own destiny is the most important aspect of Fortnite, especially because most of the people that watch my videos are players that play opens. They are players that are trying to qualify for their first or their second or their third finals. They aren't consistent grand finals players. When you are in opens, controlling your own destiny so you can play the game out how you want is so important. And I really want to highlight this game, which should have been a great game because it ends up not being one. So at this point, because they have such bad mats, they're going to at some point have to try and force a refresh. They don't have the mats to just ride out the game and play it proper. Throws on Medmus. This is a good aggressive play to just jump on this player. Sadly, they're not able to get this kill on Vanya, but they still are able to find themselves in a pretty good low ground position. But again, because they now get a pretty rough zone pull, they find themselves, Fridoxy having 0 hard mats now, frontside zone. If they don't get a kill from this position and they're on a pretty high layer with pretty low chances of getting a kill here, they're about to have to commit to try and find a kill without any hard mats. This is not a very strong position. Again, Dooley is so strong. Be able to look up beam height there. And again, we're just bleeding mats. We're not able to find these kill opportunities. We're looking for them, but it's so hard to find kill opportunities in better, higher tier lobbies. And so because they still don't have a kill opportunity, they're going to be forced to just try and force a play. So now, you're probably thinking to yourself, well, they're back in it. They just got a kill on Seti. But Seti was just lurking back tarp. You can already assume that he has maybe 3 builds max. He's got 0. And so because of this, because they're now getting kills on Kid's backside because they're forced to stagger because they have no hearts to play front, the kills they're going to get aren't going to be valuable kills. Combine that with the fact that they are scared to go for these kills because they don't have time, because they have storm sickness, and it's just a recipe for disaster. Pablo's forced to go up. They land together. They have no mats now. And a team just jumps in on them from the back. So even though they now wipe this team, they have nothing. They're staggered backside. And they already duo. Their win condition is gone. They don't have frontside low, they don't have good mats, and they don't have a third. They don't have anything to win this game. The best they can hope to do is try and ride out this game and get as much placement as possible, which is just a position you really don't want to find yourself in. They can't even play out this Med Mist he has because they have Storm Sickness. And then Chino goes down. So I wanted to really highlight this game because I think it shows off a lot of how what they do in their best games, if they don't do, and like really show off like how things can go wrong, if that makes sense. And so the final game I want to show you guys, because I don't want to go for too long, is their 7th place with 8 kills. So there's a couple cool things I caught in this game, some intentional, some unintentional, but I really want to like cover it. I think again this is a game that has like a lot of good fighting, and I think it's a game that highlights more duo clutching because the way Fredoxy died in this end game has a lot less to do with more complicated things like what I normally talk about and more just an unfortunate mistake coming at the end of day 1. So this is the last game I will be covering, and I think this is still a pretty valuable game. So before I get to anything, we already basically know, you should probably already be able to guess which like team they're going to be keying here. And that is Lone Wolf. The reason why they keyed Lone Wolf is it takes too long to get to Pump to kill them whenever they get the Mythic Spire. So keying them there is they're just going to be keying a team that has a Mythic Spire loot. It's not worth it. Again, Brutal Boxcars, keying them when they don't have Mythic Spire is kind of trash, because you're going to be keying a team that's going to all be up here, not down there. You can't just launch pad on them. It's going to be a very slow key. But Lone Wolf has a pretty good position on this zone and can hold all of these teams and get a decent amount of surge onto them. Whereas these teams on the right don't have the same case. So they're going to be keying Lone Wolf this game. Again, we get our pre-dashes on. We don't take the launch pad this game. When I talked about before how this team has like a lot of different ways of coming up with like W keying them, I meant it. It's important that you have like a couple different plays in your playbook to like key teams around you if you're a mid-map team. Whether it's opens or final, just having like some different fundamental plays that you can just rely on is really, really important in order to just perform. So because they have so many different ways of keying Seti, Yapko, and Panzer and them need to set up to trade Surge, they can't possibly be ready for every single, like, option. So Yapko runs back. What is he supposed to do there? What is he supposed to do? They're keying them before first zone even closes from Supernova. And I've somehow clicked on a different team. And so because of this, they now find themselves in a god spot. Now, unlike the other game where Seti and them kind of just like let them camp guard and didn't really like care enough to, not care enough is not the right word, but they didn't want to risk their game to try and play for a card. This game, Seti and Yapko or actually Seti and Panzer this game, are going to try and spin the block and come back and play for card. This is something they did not do in the other game. And again, this is what I talk about, man. They key and then they trade. In every game that like they really, really do well in, they key and then trade. They key more center than keying more like, what's it called? More edge. And this is a game where they're not able to like have as much time keying, right? This is a game where they're going to be forced to leave after this zone. So they're not even going to be able to get as much damage here as they could have, but they're still going to be able to put themselves in a really, really strong spot. So as they're getting ready to leave, Seti and them come back to try and get card. I'm going to try and show Chino's POV. Again, what they always do, fighting in Fortnite is like a counterattack in like football or like a fast break in basketball. You just want to get the numbers advantage. A 2v3, already pretty great, right? 2v3 is amazing. You should win most of your 2v3s. But a 1v3, what is he supposed to do? What is he supposed to possibly do here? They call, like, really, really good strikers, like, clinical. They're clinical strikers. And that's, like, the perfect way of, like, describing this trio. Like, they are clinical. They are surgical in how they approach, like, every single fight. So, Pablo runs through, finds Seti, full boxed. First time you're gonna see, like, all day of just, like, this full piece leading to a kill. Somehow, in the team that got the most kills on EU, somehow, like, a rarity to see. But I know I've been highlighting just, like, how good they are when it comes to just, like, fighting, like, positioning and everything else. But I also want to just, like, highlight that they are still all highly incredible at when it comes to just, like, mechanical Fortnite. So they see this guy just running around here out in the open, just healing. And so you already know what they're going to do. They throw down dash sprite, get dashes on. Close distance. And so Chino tries to dash on his back. I'll go back to what ends up happening in like a second. But they once again set up the just triangle, the Bermuda Triangle of death. Pablo dashes to the right over here. Chino dashes on the far side. Ferdoxy builds up on the left here so he can try and pressure off this teammate he knows is here, while also having an angle to support. So he can look over, shoot this guy, create a 2v1, because this guy can't build and shoot at the same time. And then he can also look over and additionally, occasionally provide that 1v3 support. What ends up happening though, even though they have this perfect setup, is Chino, while going on this guy's back, ends up just falling in his box, gets the ramp, insta edit 1 ball. But again, every single fight, just clinical, surgical, just triangles, Bermuda triangles, just absolutely incredible. So they end up looking for this guy, and they do end up finding him. So something cool as well. So because this team doesn't claim their shrines early, they claim their shrines late. Because they kind of like delay that shrine claim, when they end up claiming the shrines later, it can help like essentially control when their rank ups occur. So because they don't claim their shrines early, because they're going to key, right? They don't claim them early, they go to key and then they circle back. Because they claim those shrines late, they can essentially control that their rank up is going to occur while they're in zone, which essentially gives them an extra like 50 siphon whenever they want it, which is just something super cool. I don't know if that's like something that like they kind of like figured out over the course of the season and like they kind of developed, or it's just like a happy coincidence that like, hey, if we go like aggress and then come back and we claim the shrines late, we can just like use the siphon. I don't know. I'll never know. But I think it's just like something like really cool that ends up happening that helps enable them to play in zone longer without having to burn through their whites. So, like that to block off the teammate to ensure you're the one that gets the cape. I like when a trio has a little bit of fun even when they have the most pressure possible mounting against them. I think it shows a coolness under pressure that's really important to teams performing. So, mobility, just quick mobility chain, launch pad, into walk up, into rift, into dash tech. This super clean rotates. Like when next season drops, you should take the time to learn all the mobility tech that there is in the game. And again, because they reach such a high hero rank, they're able to get rewarded, they're able to get the mobility they need. Basically every single game we've seen them get up to A rank just off the aggression they show in mid-game, which really does make the rest of the game easier because they're one of very few teams that has mobility every single game. It's a lot easier to be consistent if you every single game have a couple kills and capes. Now, this definitely isn't a game where they are as stacked as some of the others. While their mats are pretty good, they obviously don't have as good heals as they would have liked, but when it comes to Surge, Oh my. 2,100 above is essentially the threshold. This is how much damage you need for the entire game. Game 1 of EU was 2,200 total damage. They are 2,100 above right now, and the surge threshold at this like stage of the game is about like 1,000. They are so chilling for the rest of the game. This is astounding to be this much above this early in the game. Like, ridiculous. This is like truly, truly ridiculous. Again, because they're a little bit off edge, when Zone ends up pulling max, they're able to be one of the first teams to react to this. There's essentially like no team that's going to be able to beat them. And again, because they are like decently stacked but not overly stacked, they got in like a little bit off edge rather than being on edge to minimize their risk. I know I'm going to keep sounding like a broken record when I constantly say that, but I think it's really important to talk about, because the one game where we saw them not be able to do that is the one game where they really struggled. I say it because it's important. It's a fundamental truth about Fortnite. The more you are around other players, the more those other players will grief you. They are not your friends. So this game, they're not able to get in like overly deep. This is also a game where you don't want to get overly deep. So on a water zone like this, half zone can't pull anywhere in the water. It's a fundamental truth of Fortnite. It can't. So zone is almost guaranteed to pull back somewhere up here. It actually is guaranteed to pull back somewhere up here. And so because of that, because you know zone's going to pull back, overextending deep is not what you want to do here. Even though you don't want to be near teams, investing metal and having extra space is important, but you don't want to get in too deep because you know you're not going to pull. Or you know you are going to pull. And just as I said, zone ends up pulling back. So, once again, I personally did not realize how strong the Druids were when it comes to just looking at height. My goodness, is this good? So now, again, what I talked about before, because they had to play in close on 7th zone, they find themselves being sprayed in positions they don't normally be sprayed. Though they are able to recover, they're able to get like a bit deeper and more to the north than most teams. Most of the teams just got like pretty suffocated in like that one, I don't know what I'm going to call it, let's say neutral zone over here by the bunker. Whereas most of these other teams are kind of, or Prodoxy is kind of just chilling more north of everything. Because they have no real kill potential, they're just waiting for transition. So they break these old builds in front of them because odds are one of the teams that's coming back north is going to own these builds. So we see like a really, really juicy body back there that has a exotic shotgun. So we end up playing for it. So again, we kind of just chill. We start like focusing transition. See a body, go get the body, and then we're going to just look forward. So now, this is just very sloppy team play. So Fernoxy is going to stand here and start popping a big while Mappy breaks his top. and then is just going to die. So I imagine what happened there was Phrodoxy started screaming, hold my top, I'm healing, and then no one ended up holding for him. But I really don't know. But I wanted to show this game because while it is a game that was almost sold because of a sloppy mistake, it is a game where they're still going to be able to clutch up a pretty decent amount of placement points as a duo, and I think it was a pretty good duo clutch, and I think there was a lot of good fundamentals. The first thing they do is they invest and they make a lot of space early. You just want to invest so you can just, like, not insta-die. You're just trying to get as many points as you possibly can as a duo. It's very rare that as a duo you find yourself winning games, so just getting as many points as you can is really, really important, especially when you're in a position like this. You're chasing a qual, you're chasing money, whatever it is. You just want to get as many points as you, like, really can. Again, a lot of people would have just, like, really rushed this body, but instead they both wait, they're both patient, they wait for zone to pull, and when zone pulls back, that's when they really start to focus this body, and they go for it. They did not rush this body early, and if they did rush that body early, there's a very real possibility that one, if not both of them, will die. Real quick, I just want to show off what Pablo was doing there while Chino was going for that body. So zone pulls back and, like, Chino's like, I'm going for it. He starts getting sprayed and instantly Pablo edits to try and look for a counter pump damage on them. So while he didn't go over and hold for him looking for a counter edit did take off and alleviate that pressure to ensure that his teammate has the ability to try and grab that mats. So when they land, they could have very easily tarped in from their side, but what they did is they essentially established, like, a very long tarp away to try and establish this, like, lane up here, rather than just, like, snaking in from this side to create a little bit of extra distance between them and this team that they know is a trio as they just pumped in the back. This is especially important when you're duo clutching to ensure you have as much space as possible from other teams, especially full trios. It's very, very hard, and I'm going to keep saying this, to win the numbers game. 2 against 3 is very bad odds, so if you can play distance, it improves your chances a lot. Gets a kill onto Splick backside. Again, a lot of players would have panicked there. You accidentally press your cape, you panic, you freeze up, you press it again, all of a sudden now you're out of the mist form, and it's 20 seconds till its next recharge. That is about as bad as possible. But what they do is he doesn't panic, he breathes, and he waits, and he just goes, Chino edit, Chino edit, Chino edit. And so again, because they don't panic, they stay calm, he's able to edit, and then they're just able to go. So now, things definitely got a little bit messier than they would have liked. This game definitely could have been a better push than what it was. But still, it is a very solid overall game. We're going to watch the rest of this Chino clutch. So this is like one of the hardest games to solo clutch or duo clutch. Are games where the layers are super, super congested. So because this high team knows what they're doing, you basically have all 7 teams down here occupying, what, 1, 2, 3 layers, and Chino is now the only one on this 4th layer sitting under 2nd height. This is, like, worst case scenario. Like, the more layers is the better when it comes to solo and duo clutching, because it means you just have more of a chance to just have distance from another team. He is able to just lurk through this, like, old builds underneath height, which is going to give him, like, a pretty decent chance to try and, like, clutch out this game. Let's find some of his old builds. Does not see B now. Almost hits the ridiculous flick pump. And then dies if we don't go to max. So, I hope this video taught you guys a lot. It's definitely one of my longer videos, but I really do think that everything I talked about in this video, the games I highlighted, really should give